Welcome to the untold story of the skin microbiota. And actually, one of the first things never been told about the skin microbiota is what is the direct benefit of cosmetics working with the skin microbiota. Well, to understand that, we have to focus on a trend that is going on already more than 20 years. It's the trend of the sensitive skin. More and more brands are focusing on the sensitive skin because the consumer has a more sensitive skin and there are more and more allergies. But that's not all. The consumer has also a more sensitive mind. In the past, when the consumer didn't like a product, they simply stopped buying it. But now they feel the urge to express their opinion on YouTube, start a blog, or become an influencer. And this challenging cocktail of a consumer with a more sensitive skin and a more sensitive mind means that brands are not allowed to make any mistake anymore, because one mistake will be enlarged on the internet. And let's be honest, brands are really doing their best to make safe cosmetics. They use mild ingredients and their products are free from everything with the slightest suspicion. But yet, one small reaction needs to be avoided. That's why brands are looking for a next level of skin protection, an extra mildness which they cannot find at the moment. And that is precisely where the skin microbiota comes into the picture. Indeed, our skin is supposed to be the outside organ of our body. It's actually the part of our body in contact with the environment. But that's not entirely true. Because that life-essential skin is covered by the skin microbiota. And it's actually the skin microbiota that is in direct contact with the environment. But if we look very closely, we notice that the skin microbiota and the skin cells, they are not separated from each other. They are actually one. They work together, as in a kind of marriage, as in a kind of symbiose. And in a symbiose, it's about giving and taking. And the skin microbiota gets from us food, because the skin is their food. But they do not eat us alive. In fact, they eat our garbage, dead skin cells, sweat, skin lipids, and sebum. But garbage is not in abundance, so they get a little bit garbage. And what do they give us in return? Well, by eating our garbage, they keep our skin beautiful and clean. But they go much further, because they will transform our garbage into antimicrobial peptides that will prevent the invasion of bacteria. And they also produce acids that will stop the colonization of foreign fungi. And beside all these military actions of the skin microbiota also helps us to regulate our inflammation process during sun exposure, giving us extra sun protection. They also can produce hydroxypurines that are powerful anti-cancer molecules preventing skin cancer. And they also produce antioxidants like SOD and ROX-P, which prevent the formation of free radicals that will prevent aging of the skin. And last but not least, the skin microbiota also provides us hydration. They just get garbage and they do all that. How is that possible? Well, it's because the skin microbiota is a master in recycling. It all starts with the Staphylococcus. The Staphylococcus bacteria is the one who can digest dead skin cells and transform them into lactates. Lactates that will be food for others like Cutibacteria. And they transform the lactates into propionates, which is then food for Micrococcus, who is producing amino acids, which is food for all the others. So in a way, the dead skin cells are transferred over and over again in other molecules, which is called recycling. And the skin microbiota really needs to work like this, because the skin is not a paradise. Actually, it's more Chernobyl, because the skin microbiota is constantly irradiated with carcinogenic, actually for them mutagenic UV light. And the skin has no water. Yes, there is a lot of water in the skin, but not on the skin. And when we use cosmetics, we torture the skin microbiota with preservatives, emulsifiers, surfactants, alcohol, essential oils with antimicrobial effect. And when you live in a city, the skin microbiota has to cope with pollution. We also use quite some antibiotics who finally, through the bloodstream, come into the skin and kills a part of the skin microbiota. Or when you go swimming in the swimming pool or in the sea, you will perform a complete genocide on the skin microbiota. And yet, after all these challenges, after all this misfortune, the skin microbiota will bounce back time after time and will protect you again time after time, until they don't. And when they don't come back because of lack of food or that they are too much damaged, the skin is left alone, and then the skin becomes vulnerable and starts to itch, starts to become red, a red bottom starts, and the skin becomes more sensitive. Or it can even evolve to acne or eczema or even more discomfort. The classic approach from cosmetics do not really have an answer, because this will not help the skin microbiota to use milder surfactants or better emollients. No, we have to work on the new trends that you hear lately. Mild for the skin microbiota. You have to improve the balance of the skin microbiota. You have to improve the diversity of the skin microbiota. This is all very interesting. But when you are all alone in your lab in front of your raw materials, what exactly are you going to do? Which ingredient can you use and which one not? Well, let's have a look at each of these trends. What does it mean? What does it mean to be mild for the skin microbiota? Well, it means, of course, that you're not going to kill them. But preservatives and alcohol kills the skin microbiota. It also means that you're not going to change the balance, which means that you will respect the internal ratios of each individual microorganism. But preservatives, emulsifiers, surfactants, they do change the ratio of all the microorganisms. In fact, what it means being mild for the skin microbiota means that you are not going to change the food supply, because microorganisms are very sensitive to the food they eat. Different food means different microorganisms that will grow. It means also when you have a disturbed skin, you have to improve the food supply. But cosmetics on the skin is food, and it changes their food supply. We can see that in this table, where we show you some ingredients that are commonly present in cosmetics and the effect they have on individual members of the skin microbiota. And then we see that even water changes the skin microbiota. It will favor microorganisms who normally cannot grow on your skin, like Corynebacteria and micrococci. And then there is the pH, who has a tremendous effect on the enzymes of the microorganisms. And some of them will go to sleeping modes and others will become more active, depending on the pH. And the biggest influence comes from lauryl, as in sodium lauryl sulfate. Lauryl is the preferred food of the C. acnes microorganism, but lauryl kills Corynebacteria and micrococci. So with lauryl, you get a huge different skin microbiota. And how interesting this might be to look at all the individual ingredients. Well, cosmetics is about 20,000 raw materials, and the skin microbiota is about 1,000 different microorganisms. So Even if you would know the influence of each ingredient on each microorganism, you would still need a supercomputer to understand all that. Being skin microbiota mild is probably dumb luck. It's impossible with the knowledge we know today to formulate like this. But to improve the balance, that is something else. It means that you are going to make the skin microbiota stronger against changes. It means that when the skin microbiota comes in the sun, when you use cosmetics that would change them, they don't change. They are solid as a rock. And that is precisely where prebiotics comes into the pictures. Prebiotics support the protective microbiota, but do not support foreign or pathogenic microorganisms. We invested quite a lot of prebiotics, and we found inulin from chicory and inulin from agave to be the best choice for cosmetics. How do they work? Well, remember the food web? Inulin will feed directly 3 members of the food web, and through the recycling, the inulin will be transformed in other molecules that will be available for only other members of the protective skin microbiota. We developed several prebiotics, and the first one is BIOLIN. BIOLIN is a mixture of inulin, which you can see at the left. Inulin is a polymer of fructose, and with a GOS, which is a polymer of glucose. We were able to demonstrate that BIOLIN is able to prevent diaper rash. This was proven in 15 babies. Each pie that you see on the picture represents a baby. A baby cream without BIOLIN in very sensitive babies will still not be able to prevent diaper rash. However, when the baby cream is equipped with BIOLIN, diaper rash is not occurring anymore. And this is a more visual test on a baby. But also for intimate care. Here, 50 patients suffering from discomfort and even infections after using an intimate wash. When these same patients were using the same wash enriched with BIOLIN, none of them got any discomfort anymore, because their microbiome became stronger, their balance became stronger against aggression. And also BIOLIN was tested on diabetic skin. This is a skin where the microbiome is seriously disturbed, and it was able to normalize again the complete skin. This is a test not performed by our company, but by one of our customers, Sanofi, in 2016. And all the parameters like irritation and erythema went down with BIOLIN. Here again, you have a visible result on the left, an eczema, and after using a month of BIOLIN, the skin again became stronger. We have a second prebiotic, preBIULIN FOS, which is similar to BIOLIN, but it's hydrolyzed and it's more soluble in water. And also we discovered that hydrolyzed inulin is substantial to the skin, even in rinse-off conditions. We tested preBIULIN FOS in something we know very well now. It's a hand sanitizer. You can see on the left that a hand sanitizer, so just alcohol, will destroy and disturb 63% of the skin microbiome, even after 4 hours. So the skin microbiome after a hand sanitizing is not recovering very well. However, when the hand sanitizer contains 1% preBIULIN FOS, you can see on the right side that 72% of the skin microbiota is restored after 4 hours. Now this is a skin microbiota that can protect you. We also did with the hand sanitizer an ex vivo test. On skin explant, on purpose, we contaminated them with a pathogen, which you can see here in blue. When you do nothing with the skin explant, the pathogen is flourishing. When you treat the skin explant with alcohol, it's of course no surprise that the pathogen is diminished. But the surprise lays when you treat the skin explants with alcohol and prebioling FOS. Then you kill the pathogen even more efficiently with 60%. Strange, because inulin is just a polymer of fructose. It's not an antimicrobial agent. But actually what happens is when you treat the skin with alcohol, the alcohol will reduce the pathogen, but will also harm and destroy your skin microbiota. When the alcohol is combined with a prebiotic, the alcohol still destroys the pathogen, still destroys your skin microbiota, but the inulin is there to recover the skin microbiota. And when the skin microbiota is recovered, it will take matters in own hands and will fight against the pathogen. So this 60% is not coming from our ingredient, but is coming from a skin microbiota that is recovered. And here you can see on the top hands using a hand sanitizer with preBIULIN FOS, and below the same from the same person with a hand sanitizer without preBIULIN FOS. So below they are a little bit more red and irritated. prebioling FOS also works in surfactants, where you can see here that the skin microbiota is less disturbed. You can see this on the red spot. And when treated on an acne skin, we see that the C. acnes population is reduced when prebioling FOS is in a wash. Finally, we also have a prebiotic for leave-on. This prebiotic is a high molecular weight inulin derived from chicory and from agave. And one situation we all must know is creams containing preservatives. We used here a quite severe preservative system, phenoxyethanol with parabens and imidazole urea. If you put this on your skin, you can see it here in the graph that in 1 hour time you reduce the skin microbiota with 90%. However, if the cream contains prebioling agar, which will reboost the skin microbiota, we see that the skin microbiota is only destroyed for 50%. Okay, it's still a lot, but it is 5 times better. Again, the inulin made the skin microbiota stronger against possible aggressions. And when you use a cream containing hyaluronic acid with these preservatives for a month, the hyaluronic acid will still hydrate the skin. We know that hyaluronic acid is very powerful. But when you take out the hyaluronic acid and replace it by prebioling agar, you see that the hydration power is much better than hyaluronic acid, because in this case the skin microbiota is able to be recovered, and a recovered skin microbiota will hydrate the skin much better. And here you can see on hands. On the left you can always see the hands of a cleaning lady who's using a lot of aggressive detergents, and on the right side and below you can see the hands after a month. They are much nicer. The prebioling agar also works in the sun. Here you can see an experiment with an SPF 30 and an SPF 30 containing prebioling agar. The dark blue bar is the SPF, the light blue bar is the SPF with prebioling agar. In both cases, the skin microbiota dies in 20 minutes. When you go in the sun, the skin microbiota dies. And it doesn't recover after 2 hours. Only after 4 hours we see a recovery of 50% with just the sunscreen. But when you use a prebiotic in your sunscreen, the skin microbiota is almost completely recovered and can again protect you. Here we focus on the protective microorganisms like Cutibacteria, Corynebacteria, and Micrococcus. They all are fading away in the sun, even after 4 hours. However, when you use a prebiotic, they are all flourishing again, ready again to protect the skin. And then a last trend you hear quite often is to increase the diversity. Indeed, When your skin is sick and infected, you have a very low diversity, which needs to be increased. But when you have a healthy skin, like in cosmetic purposes, you do not need to increase it. It's already healthy, it's already balanced. And when your skin is hydrated, it will always have a lower diversity than a dry skin, because a dry skin is rough and it's much easier for foreign microorganisms to colonize it. To conclude, I would like to say that the right food for the skin microbiota is inulin, as it supports the skin microbiota in difficult situations, and it also supports claims like skin microbiota friendly, prevention, and also makes the skin barrier stronger. Thank you very much for your attention.